This video was recorded live before a canned studio audience. It's Friday Night Movie Reviews, and here they are, Chris and Keith.
Hi, I'm Keith,
I'm Chris.
and this is Friday Night Movie Reviews. Now, tonight, we're not exactly going to be, at this time, we're not going to be reviewing a movie per se. We're going to be reviewing something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. We're going to be reviewing a streaming show.
Yep, so this is part of our streaming review series.
Right. It's not even a streaming movie. It is a streamed TV show. And you can find this show on Paramount Plus. Tell them what the name of the show is.
It is Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Yes. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Now, if any of you are familiar with the Star Trek series, you know that, especially like the more recent Star Trek series, then you know that this kind of branches off from, this is an offshoot of the Star Trek Discovery.
Yep, what's recently just ended and been canceled and
Right.
all that. And really, this became like its own thing, basically.
Its own thing. And Paramount has clearly made this totally and completely separate from Star Trek Discovery. They have put it into the Prime universe, so it is all connected with the original series and whatnot.
Yep, so no purple Klingons that are hairless,
Right.
none of that stuff. So you've got regular Klingons with the regular ridges with hair.
Right.
So I will say this: if you're a Star Trek purist, you're immediately going to start nitpicking like I do. They've obviously kept a lot of the aesthetics the same, but there are things like LCD screens that clearly the original series didn't have that this one does. The uniforms are a little bit more flashier than the original ones were because it basically just looked like a t-shirt.
Yeah, it was basically a shirt with possibly even a black undershirt that had a collar on it, and then a shirt over the top with a little iron-on kind of Star Trek emblem.
With the bell-bottom pants.
With the bell-bottom pants.
And then the platform shoes for the men, and then the women wore the skirts. On this one, they've kind of leaned away from the skirts. They all wear pants.
But they still have the kind of flared out pants for the men.
Oh, yes,
and
of
they
course.
still have the boots, so they haven't gone completely and totally away from it.
So they're still when you first look at the Enterprise, it still has the 60s aesthetic bridge with the actual push buttons.
Right.
She can actually physically
the same noises that are kind of going on, but they are a little updated.
Yeah.
It's not the 60s version of those noises, but I mean, when Spock looks into the viewfinder, you can still hear the that noise.
So what they're trying to do at the same time is try to keep it familiar but different.
Right.
Is the best way of saying that. So once you get past that element of it, you're able just to focus on the characters and themselves, and that typically is where the show actually really shines. You're talking everybody on this show brings it to the table.
Right.
And ones that you may not felt like had got shine, just watch the first 3 seasons and you'll see that character finally get an arc.
Yeah, they finally get their own. Some of the characters finally get their own episode where they shine above everybody else, but it still works out. I mean, it's kind of like what they used to do with Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yep.
Where each character got their own episode to help develop that character's character.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it does have weaknesses, of course. Some of the writing here and there is not necessarily the best. I know you've got Star Trek purists out there that just certain episodes that we like, some of the purists don't like. They didn't care for the musical episode.
Right. There is a musical episode, but
it's more comical than you think.
Watch it.
And it actually makes sense in the context of the episode.
It really does.
So it's just not there just for look at this.
That's one of the things that I can say about this show is that the wonkiness that is in, when it starts out, you're looking at it, you're like, oh my gosh, what is it? But as that particular show goes on, it works out and it makes sense in a Star Trek sensibility.
And compared to a lot of the other recent Star Trek stuff, this is definitely at the top of the list for me.
Way at the top for me.
There has been some really bad stuff. Discovery is just like one of the most horrible things I've ever seen in my life. And you're talking.
I've never watched an episode of Discovery, but I've heard too many bad things about it, and I won't waste my time.
Oh, it's not worth your time. So, but this one, you care about every single character that's on there,
Right.
And they just like even when the writing is bad, these actors are able to take the bad writing and make the
and
most
turn
of
it into something good.
Yeah,
And that's where not just the characters shine, but that's where the actors really shine too. Is that they take this not so great writing that might be going on, and they just transform it into something really incredible. It works out.
It
One
does.
one of the things that my dad in particular, who is a Star Trek fan, one of the things he's tried to watch. He says, I've tried to watch an episode,
Okay.
but he doesn't like it. And the reason he doesn't like it is because he says the Enterprise is too big.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've tried to explain to him is this is not just a Constitution class ship. This is the flagship of the Federation.
Well,
and so, yes, it was going to be big.
yeah. Well, and that was the limitations of a 1960s program. The
Right.
ship was always big.
Right.
It literally can fit over 150 people on board.
Right.
It's not small by any means.
Exactly.
It's just
I've seen drawing comparisons,
Mhm.
and they compare the Enterprise to an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And I'm not talking about an old fashioned
Talking about
aircraft
one of
carrier.
the new ones.
One of the newer aircraft carriers that are so much bigger
Yeah.
and so much longer. So it's not that the Enterprise is a small ship. It's always a huge ship. But you go back to the 1960s thing, and yes, they were limited by things. They were limited in their budget. They were limited in the sets that they could make.
Mhm.
They were limited in the technology, which brings me to my point. A lot of you out there are saying, well, I don't like Strange New Worlds because it looks too modern. It don't look like the 1960s. Well, of course not. But think about it like this. If Gene Roddenberry had the budget, the technology, and the ability to do the things that is being done with this show now, tell me he wouldn't have done it that way.
Oh, well, you look at Next Generation. He totally was like, oh yeah, it was a step up.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the
Step up.
movies. The movies themselves.
The
like-
movies were, and those are times whenever Gene Roddenberry was still alive. So let's take this show and let's throw it back into the 1960s, but let's take the technology, let's take the budget, let's take all of that, and let's give all of that to Gene Roddenberry and tell him, no, you got to make it like this. You got to make it this way, this simplistic, like these people know from the 1960s. He would have looked at both of them and said, that's my Star Trek.
And the show does have some comical, goofy moments in there.
It does.
But there are episodes that pull at your heartstrings.
Oh yeah, there are some episodes where you're going to need the tissues beside you, because you're going to be once.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the original series. With the original series, you get invested in these characters, and you
Yep.
care about them.
You do.
You care about Mr. Spock. You care about Captain Kirk. You care about Uhura and Sulu and the others. You care about these characters, and that's the way this show does. By number one, like we talked about earlier, with the each character getting their own episode, they develop this character throughout the series, and you end up falling in love with these characters because you know them.
Yeah. And I guess we should preface, this is the first original 5 years of the mission of the Enterprise. So Christopher Pike is in command.
Captain Kirk is not on board the Enterprise. So if you go into this looking for Captain Kirk, if you go into it looking for Sulu and Chekhov and the original cast, you're not going to find them. This is Captain Christopher Pike, this is before getting into some of the lore. This is before the Enterprise goes to Talos 4. And all of that stuff with Captain Christopher Pike happens.
Yeah, if
It's
you
before
saw
all of that.
if you saw the pilot episode with Christopher Pike, number 1, they expanded on that. So now
Mhm.
you've got new actors obviously playing the roles instead of Majel Barrett playing number 1.
Right.
You have the lady that played Mystique in the X-Men movie. She's now Rebecca Romaine. She's now playing
Mhm.
number 1. You know, you have the guy that's playing Anton. I forget his last name. That's playing Christopher Pike.
Yeah.
And you're talking.
He was in Hell on Wheels.
Yeah, and he was actually like fans actually demanded him to play this part. That he was actually like they sent petitions to Paramount, said, "Hey,"
and then he actually went to Paramount and begged for a show, and petitioned them and said, "Look, please make this show. I want to be Christopher Pike."
And believe it or not, that was like one of the highest rated Discovery episodes when they showed him and his crew on there. That they gave him his own show, and it has worked out because now they've had full 3 seasons. It's been renewed for a 4th because the 3rd season kind of leaves you on this like misty-eyed. You're like sad, but it's like bittersweet. They could have ended it beautifully at the end of season 3, the way they ended it.
Well, I mean, they leave every just a heads up. They're gonna leave the end of every season on some type of a cliffhanger.
This one really didn't. It really just kind of it had like a logical closer point.
It did, but it kind of leaves you with some kind of emptiness there.
Yeah, it does.
That where you not like emptiness like, oh, that could have been done better. Emptiness like, no. You can't end it like that.
Yeah, you really can't. And that's the reason why I was worried at first when I saw that ending, because I hadn't seen that it had been renewed. And then like a week after I finally finished the show, because I waited for all the episodes to drop before I start watching it. Yeah, I wish they would go back to the Netflix style where they just drop all the episodes at once, and then boom, and then we could get the review to you faster.
Right, right.
But no, it left you like, no, you can't end there. I want more. I need to know. I need it to get to that point that Christopher Pike is so afraid of on the show, and that's kind of the overarching thing about all the seasons is he knows his future.
He is aware of what's actually going to happen to him, and if you know anything about the Star Trek lore, you know that Captain Christopher Pike in the original series ends up in. I don't think they really elaborated on what happened.
No, they didn't, and that's why this show's kind of what's delving
this
into it.
This one kind of does. He has some kind of bizarre accident that severely burns him and leaves him incapacitated, where he's in some kind of cone-shaped wheelchair kind of thing where he can't even speak. The only thing he can do is answer questions with a yes and no, and it's beep beep. It just beeps. So yeah, there's that, and he has in this show. He has foreseen that accident.
So he's been living out his life dreading this, knowing this is going to happen.
And it's supposed to happen like 10 years from, I think it's 10 years, right?
Yeah.
From episode 1 of the first series. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to happen 10 years in the future. So he's got 10 years that he knows that he's going to be okay. But then after that, the clock's ticking. And something happens,
and so you're kind of left with this doom and gloom because you know what's going to end up happening to the character, and then they basically make you fall in love with him.
Yeah,
like he's so wonderfully written and everything else. The way the character is just really presented and how he acts as the character. Like you don't want this horrible thing to happen to him, but you know it's going to happen if you followed Star Trek lore. You know what happens to him.
Now. We will say this. We said we did preface it and say that you don't see the classic crew. Now, there are members of the classic crew that do start out on the show and others that sort of make their way into it. Now, the ones that start out will tell you, but the ones that make their way into it, we're not going to. The ones that start out on the show is Spock, of course. Spock, I guess he started his whole career on the Enterprise, but Spock is one that's there.
And he was in the pilot episode too.
And he
the
was in the
original
pilot
series.
episode.
Yeah. So he's supposed to be there.
Right. Nurse Chapel.
Nurse Chapel and
And
Uhura.
Uhura, yeah.
And you find out what Uhura's first name is. They do reveal that on the show.
They do reveal that on this show. So you have 3 original crew members that 3 of the crew members from the original series that start out on this show. And there are others that creep their way in and end up having their spot on the show.
And one of them becomes a regular in season 3. He comes at the very end of season 2 during the finale.
Right.
And then there's been one that's pops up all throughout all 3 seasons, but I'm not going to say who that is. I want you to watch the show if you haven't already.
Right. No spoilers with this one. Sorry.
Yep. But I just can't say enough nice things about the show. Like it's refreshing because I was worried that like with modern Star Trek that I just would never like any of it.
Right. I was too.
And this one has been a breath of fresh air because you had watched the first season first. I said, no, Chris, you really need to watch this. It's not bad. And I'm a Star Trek purist, so that was a tough pill for me to swallow. I'm like, wait a minute, they made a good Star Trek show,
right?
And I tried it, and I'm like, no, this is actually worthy.
Because he was worried that it was going to be like just like a continuation of Discovery.
Yeah, and
that's what he was worried
like
about.
That.
And I warned him, and I said, no, dude, has nothing to do with Discovery. They don't hardly even mention it.
They went back to. It's substance over style versus modern stuff is all style over substance.
Right.
So this show does not suffer from that, even though the guy that's been the showrunner of all these new Star Trek shows, even though his name is on it, I think he's more in the producer's seat. He's not really the creative force behind. I'm talking about Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah.
I think he's just more in the producer's role at this point. So I don't think he's very hands-on with the show. And Alex, please just stay away from the show. Just give them the monies.
Right.
Give them the money and just let them do
just
their
let
thing.
them go with it. I will say this. About it, and this is really about the only spoiler that I'm going to give with it, is they have established, and I believe they even established it in the first season. I can't remember it starting to all run together. They do establish that Discovery and this are in completely separate universes.
Yep. So this is in the Prime universe.
The meeting of the Enterprise with the Discovery was because of a crossover in universes.
Yep.
That was temporary, and then the Discovery went back to that universe, and then they rejoined the Prime universe. So they have established that.
Yes.
And the only reason why I spoil that is because I've never watched an episode of Discovery, but I've heard so many terrible, terrible, terrible things, and I have seen clips of it, and I'm not even going to waste my time with it. So the only reason I say that is because for those of you who are maybe wanting to watch the show, but you're not really sure if you really want to, go ahead and watch it, because this has nothing to do with Star Trek Discovery. I mean, yeah. But this has nothing to do with Discovery.
Now, as far as who can watch this, I guess that'll be our final thing about it.
Yeah.
Pretty much it's general audience. There are some themes in it that are a little bit heavy for smaller children.
Yeah, there are some themes, some language sometimes.
Yeah, the language, though, they tried to scale it back because Discovery had a lot of bad language on it.
Right.
But this one is more like classic Star Trek, where you might get a D word here, an A word here.
Yeah.
But old Star Trek did that. They did it.
Yeah.
That was pretty consistent for them. So I'm okay with that. So it is return to form there. So most of the time, if a kid comes in while you're watching it, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to see anything inappropriate. Since this is meant to be like an as television show, there's no nudity on it.
Right.
There's always been like a more of an adult nature to Star Trek. Even the 60s had it with the sexiness and all of that. So this one's not short of that. I just want to make sure to preface that is in there.
Yeah.
But I think most of the time you can get away with what with a kid walking in the room and you not being having like, oh, turn it off real quick, that kind of thing.
My son sits and watches.
See,
it
there you go,
sometimes. And he's 9, so he'll sit and watch it sometimes, and he finds it interesting too. Okay, so As far as my personal feelings about the show, I really enjoy this show. This show is great. I rank it right up there with the original series, and not only that, but if you're nitpicking because of all of the technology and stuff that's in it, I just say this: Gene Roddenberry would have put it in there if he had had it in the 1960s.
I think he would have approved of this show.
And he would have approved of it. He would have put his big old stamp of approval on it. So I enjoy the show. I love it. And if I'm going to give popcorns to it, I would give this show probably, there's some wonky episodes. So I'd probably give this about a 9.5
I think that's really good. I would honestly probably an 8.5 for me, and that's just because I want the aesthetics to match, because for years, even when they would flash back to the show on Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, when they would show stuff, it would be the old 60s thing. Yeah. So it's more of just like continuity, consistency thing for me, and the wonkiness that you talked about. It's the only reason I don't rank it higher than 8.5. I definitely say give it a watch. Definitely don't let it sit on the back burner. This is not Discovery. This is not an Alex Kurtzman mess. No. So definitely give this a watch, and let us know in the comments.
How many Pepsis would you give it?
8.5.
8.5 Pepsis out of it. So you got a 9.5 popcorns and 8.5. Hush. 8.5 Pepsis for it. So you guys watch the show. It's incredible. I really love it. Well, there is our cue to go.
Yep. Remember to like, share.
The battery wears out.
Yep. I know. Low battery. Remember to like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that bell notification for when our next video drops. And as always, thank you for watching.
Yes. Remember, sit down and watch this show, because if you're a Star Trek fan, I think you're really going to love it. This is a great show. Just ignore the hype about, the technology, this and that, and all this kind of stuff. Ignore all of that. Just watch the show and enjoy it, because it's really worth it. All right? Listen, when you sit down with your friends, with your family, remember to watch this and enjoy this show. Thank you for watching.